I'm happy my sister took my boyfriend away from me. He passed her an STD. I discovered true love while she ended up with an untreatable illness, and now she's sobbing with regret. My sister Olivia had launched into yet another monologue about herself. It was the third one that hour while I merely shifted food around on my plate during dinner. Olivia turned every family meal into her personal stage performance. Instead of flashing an engagement ring, she angled her hand so the chandelier light bounced off her perfect manicure. Luke, my boyfriend at the time, was sneaking glances at his phone beneath the tablecloth beside me. His attention had been drifting for months while I sat right there. Across from me, Will, Olivia's boyfriend, kept his arms folded, staring at her with the flat, weary expression of someone who had memorized every word she was about to say. So, Olivia announced, "I've been thinking." She swept her gaze across the table like she was addressing a packed auditorium. Will muttered, "Here we go. I have this wild idea. Just listen before you judge." Olivia shot him a look sharp enough to curdle cream. He leaned back and waited, unfazed. I had always assumed Will stayed quiet because he had nothing interesting to say. I never realized he had simply learned that speaking around Olivia was pointless. Olivia continued, "I think we should switch boyfriends." I actually laughed, a short, stunned bark, because she couldn't possibly be serious. I turned to Luke, expecting him to laugh with me. He didn't. He lowered his phone and stared at Olivia with more focus than he'd shown me in weeks. "I'm completely serious," Olivia said, smiling that sugary smile she used when she wanted something badly. She flicked her wrist toward Will. "Think about it. Will is so predictable. No offense, babe." Will gave a quiet snort. "Better than dating a hurricane that tears everything apart and calls it fun." His voice was low, but the edge cut clean through the room. Olivia pretended she hadn't heard. "And Luke," she went on, propping her chin on her hand and leaning toward him, "he's exciting. He's spontaneous. He's always up for anything. I just feel like we'd match so much better." She looked at me. "It makes total sense if you really think about it." I stared at her. "You've lost your mind." "I'm being logical," she insisted. "Why should both of us stay in relationships that aren't working when we could just trade? We're not married, Ella." "That has to be the stupidest thing you've ever said, Olivia. And you once told me the sun and moon were the same celestial body." "I was 12, she snapped. "Stop deflecting. I'm offering you an improvement." She waved toward Will like he was a consolation prize on a quiz show. Will raised one eyebrow, but stayed silent. Luke cleared his throat. "I mean," he said slowly, "it's not the worst suggestion I've heard." My whole body went cold. I whipped my head toward him. "Excuse me." He shrugged, careless, like he was deciding on pizza toppings. "What? Things have felt flat lately, Ella. We've been together 3 years. Couples experiment sometimes." "Flat." My voice came out rough. "Yeah, I noticed. I thought we'd work on it together. Not that you'd use it as an excuse to trade me in for my sister." Olivia actually clapped her hands once. "See? Luke understands. Come on, Ella, 1 month. That's all. If it's awful, we swap back. No hard feelings." "No." "Why not?" "Because it's insane. Because you're my sister. Because this isn't some reality show. Pick one." She rolled her eyes so dramatically I thought they might stick. "God, you're so theatrical. It's not that deep. Will doesn't even care. Right, babe?" Will met my eyes. Behind the calm mask something flickered. Tiredness. Maybe dark amusement. Maybe sympathy. "Whatever gets us out of this dinner fastest," he said. Olivia beamed like he'd just proposed on one knee. "Perfect." She reached into her designer bag and pulled out a folded sheet of heavy, expensive-looking paper. I even wrote up a little agreement. 30 days minimum. No quitting early, no running to mom and dad. We all promised to really try. She slid the paper toward me. "The bait. Come on, Ella. Be daring for once. Unless you're scared Will won't want you." That was the jab that always worked when we were kids. The smart thing would have been to stand up and walk out. Grab Luke by the collar, drag him with me, and never speak of this again. Luke was already reaching for the pen. "Luke," I hissed. "Don't you dare." He scrawled his name without even glancing at me, like I was already gone. "Relax, babe," he said, passing the pen to Olivia. "It's only a month. Could spice things up. Might be good for us." As if I was the one who had let things go stale. Fury blurred my vision. 2 years. 2 whole years. I had spent making excuses for his laziness, his selfishness, his refusal to put me first. and his repayment was signing our relationship away across a dinner table without a second thought. Olivia signed next, flourishing her signature like she was autographing movie posters. Will scratched his name quickly, the corner of his mouth twitching with something close to a smile. Then everyone looked at me. Ella, Olivia murmured, sweet poison, don't be the boring one. I should have walked away. I should have told them all to burn. But Luke had just erased me like I was nothing. Something stubborn and furious refused to let me be the pathetic one begging him to stay. I snatched the pen, scrawled my name in jagged strokes, and slammed it down so hard the cutlery jumped. Olivia's smile was polished, triumphant, and never reached her cold eyes. Trust me, she said. This is going to be the best thing that ever happened to you. She had no idea how right she was. I thought I had ruined my life the moment I signed that ridiculous contract. My boyfriend had been desperate to escape me. He'd agreed before I could even object. I was stuck with the dull, safe guy my sister had basically gift-wrapped and handed over. What Olivia didn't realize when she forced that pen into my hand was that her boring boyfriend was hiding something that would destroy her world. 3 days later, Will texted me. Coffee? I stared at the message for a full minute, waiting for the trap. But it was simple, no games. Figured we should probably speak in person since we're stuck together for a month. Coffee, I typed back before I could overthink it. Sure. We picked a quiet cafe halfway between our apartments, neutral territory. I got there 20 minutes early, bought a latte I didn't want just to have something to hold, and claimed a corner table. When Will walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. I had only ever seen him shrinking beside Olivia, trying to disappear. Now he walked in wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans, hands in pockets, looking lighter, like a man who had taken off a lead jacket I hadn't noticed he was wearing. He spotted me, lifted a hand in a small wave, and slid into the chair opposite. We sat in silence for a few seconds. This is strange, right? He said, soft laugh. It's not just me. Extremely strange, I agreed. I keep expecting Olivia to leap out from behind the ficus and yell gotcha. Then we're safe for now, he said, and smiled, a real one. I realized I had never seen him smile, not once in the entire year he'd dated my sister. He leaned back. So, how are you holding up after the Luke thing? I wrapped both hands around my cup. The polite answer was fine, managing, very mature. I went with the truth. I keep replaying the moment he signed that paper without even looking at me, like I was already invisible. Will nodded slowly. That was brutal to watch. Was it that obvious from the outside that we were broken? He thought about it. Not broken exactly. Just, he was never really there. Every time I saw you two, he was on his phone or staring into space. You'd be talking, and he was already somewhere else. He stopped himself. Sorry. Don't be. Because Olivia does the same thing to you, just a different version. She's not checked out. She's waiting for her turn to speak. Every conversation is a runway, and she's the only model. The TED Talk dinners, I said. Exactly. I started believing I really was boring because she said it so often. Then I realized she labels anything boring that isn't about her. Movie I picked. Boring. Restaurant that isn't Insta-perfect. Boring. Wanting to cook at home instead of blowing $500 on bottle service? Boring. She called you a retirement home at the table. That's a new one. Usually it's grandpa, fossil, or my personal favorite. Why are you so obsessed with being comfortable? He mimicked her voice perfectly, and I laughed louder than I meant to. She's exhausting, I said. I love her because she's my sister, but God, she's exhausting. She's a black hole, Will said quietly. Everything gets pulled in. Your time, your energy, your money. I spent $950 on a purse for her birthday, and she returned it because it was sand not owed. $950? My jaw actually dropped. Luke forgot my last birthday completely, even after I reminded him twice. Then yelled at me for being upset because birthdays aren't a big deal. Olivia demanded a surprise party, Will said, then threw a tantrum because I invited her actual friends instead of the influencers she wanted for photos. We were laughing, and suddenly the awkwardness was gone. We were just two people comparing battle scars. Will, I said, can I ask you something honest? Go for it. When Olivia suggested the swap, I wasn't shocked. I was relieved. I've been trying to leave for months, but every time I mentioned breaking up, she'd cry, threaten to tell everyone I was abusive, or say she'd hurt herself. I felt trapped. His face darkened. I know the feeling. Luke made you feel like you were asking for too much. All the time. Just wanting his attention felt needy. I kept making myself smaller to fit whatever tiny space he left for me, and it was still never enough. We both picked wrong, he said. We really did. I smiled despite everything. At least now we're stuck with each other instead of them. Could be worse, he said, and his eyes softened when he smiled. For the first time since that disastrous dinner, I didn't feel angry. I felt seen. Random question. What do you actually do for work? I realized Olivia never talked about you unless she was complaining. Will hesitated. Something shifted behind his eyes. Not discomfort. More like he was deciding how much truth to give. I actually quit 3 weeks ago. Oh. I tried to sound neutral. $950 purses and no job didn't add up. Looking for something new? He laughed under his breath. I don't need to work anymore. He rubbed the back of his neck. This is going to sound ridiculous. I won the lottery. Like, properly won. Millions. I inhaled coffee wrong and coughed for a solid 30 seconds while he handed me napkins looking genuinely worried. You could have opened with that, I wheezed. Probably, he admitted. Millions plural? Yeah. And nobody knows. Not even Olivia. He didn't need to explain why. I already understood. Because the second she found out, she'd suddenly love everything about you. Staying in, cooking, comfortable sweatpants. Everything that was boring 2 seconds earlier would become perfect. Exactly. He looked at me straight on. She's going to lose her mind when she realizes. She really did. A week later, Will called his parents to tell them the house was paid off. I was curled on his couch beside him, watching his face light up while his mom cried happy tears on speaker. We didn't hear Olivia let herself in with the key she'd refused to return. We only heard her shriek from the hallway. How? She stormed into the living room in 6-inch heels like a Category 5. Hurricane. Will, you just paid off a mortgage, hundreds of thousands. How? Will went very still, then stood slowly. Olivia, you need to leave. I'm not going anywhere until you explain. Her wild gaze bounced between us. You drive a 10-year-old car. You said we couldn't afford Cabo, but you can clear a whole house? It's none of your business, Will said calmly. His hands trembled slightly anyway. We're not together anymore. You made sure of that. Olivia whirled on me. You knew. You knew the whole time. That's why you signed so fast. You set this whole thing up to steal him. I laughed, sharp and humorless. You wrote the contract, Olivia. You begged everyone to sign. I didn't want any of this. You and Luke decided for me. This isn't a coincidence. Her voice was climbing into screech territory. You went through his things, you hacked his accounts. Somehow you found out, and you played me. I didn't steal anyone, I said. You threw him away because he wasn't exciting enough. You handed him to me gift-wrapped because you wanted my neglectful boyfriend more. I didn't have all the facts, she screamed. If I'd known. If you'd known he was rich, you would have pretended to love him. I finished. That's why he never told you. And look, 10 seconds after finding out, and you're proving him right. Olivia's face went scarlet. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. Will spoke quietly. You would have found me fascinating the moment money was attached. That's why I kept it secret. Olivia opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound came out. She had finally run out of words. And somewhere along the way, while she was busy grabbing for something she thought was better, I had found the real thing with the man she discarded. Karma, it turns out, doesn't always need to shout. Sometimes it just waits quietly in the corner, sipping coffee, until the perfect moment arrives. The front door crashed shut behind her with enough force to send a framed photo sliding off the wall and shattering on the floor. That felt final. It wasn't. My phone started blowing up the next morning with calls from Mom. By the 10th missed call, she left a voicemail that sounded close to panic. Olivia had declared an emergency family meeting, and I had to come to the house immediately. No excuses. I walked into my parents' living room an hour later and found the scene already staged to perfection. Olivia was curled on the couch like a wounded bird, blanket tucked around her shoulders, a snowdrift of crumpled tissues on the coffee table, eyes swollen from expertly timed crying. Mum sat beside her rubbing slow circles on her back. Dad hovered by the fireplace looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Ella, Mum said in that soft, disappointed tone she saved for when she was certain I was the villain. We need to talk. Let me guess, I said, dropping my bag by the door. Olivia gave you her edited version, and now I'm the monster. Nobody called you a monster, Mum replied automatically. Olivia let out a theatrical wail. I just want everything to go back to how it was. I made a mistake, okay? I admit it. Proposing the swap was stupid. But Ella's rubbing it in my face and refusing to switch back. That's not fair. A mistake. I repeated. You planned it for weeks. You brought a printed contract and a pen to dinner, Olivia. I didn't know what I was throwing away, she cried. He hid things from me. He hid who he really is. How was I supposed to make an informed decision without all the information? So now it's Will's fault you treated him like dirt for a year? I asked. His bank account wasn't hidden. You just never cared enough to love the man attached to it. Dad cleared his throat. Ella, your sister might have a point. This has all spiraled out of control. Why not just end it early and let everyone move on? She hasn't stopped crying since yesterday. She's crying because she missed out on millions, I said flatly. Not because she lost the love of her life. If Will was still broke tomorrow, she'd be posting brunch photos with Luke right now. That's not fair, Olivia sniffed. You don't know what's in my heart. I had something real with Will, and I didn't see it. I was blind. I took him for granted. Happy now. I raised an eyebrow. I'll be happy when you admit you only want him back because of his wallet. Mom sighed. Ella, please. For the family's sake, think about ending this early. I looked at my parents, at my sister's Oscar-worthy performance, at the perfectly orchestrated intervention designed to guilt me into handing Olivia whatever she wanted, and something hard and cold locked into place inside my chest. No, I said. The contract says 30 days. No early exits, no running to mom and dad. You wrote those rules yourself, Olivia, so I couldn't bail when it got hard for me. Guess what? They apply to you too. I looked her dead in the eye. You wanted Luke so badly? Go enjoy him. Leave Will and me alone. 2 nights later, Will showed up at my apartment looking drained. He collapsed onto my couch, pulled out his phone, and handed it over without a word. You need to see these, he said quietly. I scrolled. Dozens, no, hundreds, of messages from Olivia. I made the biggest mistake of my life. Please give me one more chance. I miss you so much. I miss your cooking, your hugs, the way you made me feel safe. I'll change, I swear. I'll stay home every night. I'll watch whatever dumb old movies you want and never complain. I love you, Will. I always loved you. I was just too stupid to realize it. I'll learn to cook all your favorite meals. I'll be the girlfriend you deserve. I'll do anything. Anything. She's offering to cook, I said, stunned. Olivia has literally said she'd rather die than learn how to turn on an oven. She also offered to delete Instagram, stop going to clubs, and be perfectly content with a boring life as long as it's with me, Will said, voice flat. She really, really wants that money. He tossed the phone onto the coffee table. I'm not answering. What do you want me to do? I looked at him, at the exhaustion in his eyes, at the way he was still asking me instead of deciding for himself, and my chest ached. Stay, I said softly. Stay with the person who actually sees you. She begged. She cried. She dragged our parents into it. She flooded his phone with words she'd never once said while they were together. Nothing worked. If you think Olivia gave up then, you clearly never met my sister. When begging fails, she changes weapons. And what she did next almost tore everything I was building with Will clean out of my hands. The next 2 weeks with Will were the happiest I'd been in years. We slipped into an easy rhythm that never once felt forced. He cooked while I perched on the kitchen counter stealing bites. He remembered I like my eggs over medium. That cilantro tastes like soap to me, that I need water on the nightstand before I can fall asleep. One night we stayed up until 3 laughing at terrible horror movies. Another night he taught me his grandmother's pasta sauce and only laughed, not once got annoyed, when I ruined the first 2 batches. We ate the 3rd straight out of the pot sitting cross-legged on his living room floor, and it was the best meal of my life. You know what I love about you, he said one night, my head on his chest while some cooking show neither of us was watching flickered on the TV. My devastating wit and sparkling personality. That you're just you. No performance. No audience required. With you I can finally breathe. I swallowed hard. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. Then nobody's been paying attention, I whispered. He tilted my chin up. I mean it, Ella. You're brilliant and funny and real. That's rare. That matters. I kissed him that night. Our first real kiss, and it felt like coming home. Our first proper date was a tiny Portuguese place he adored. Halfway through the appetizers, I heard heels clicking behind me like gunshots. Oh my God, what a coincidence. Olivia sang. materializing beside our table in a dress that cost more than my rent and makeup sharp enough to cut glass. Mind if I squeeze in? Yes, I said. She pulled up a chair anyway. So, she said, eyes locked on Will. How's the getting to know you phase going? Hope you're taking it slow. Rebounds crash and burn, you know. This isn't a rebound. Will said, jaw tight. Olivia, leave. I'm just looking out for both of you. She smiled, poison sweet. Ella's got a history of bad choices. I'd hate for you to get hurt by someone who's only using you to punish me. Will threw cash on the table and stood. We're done here. He took my hand, and we walked out, leaving her sitting alone under the restaurant lights. When showing up didn't work, she upgraded to full sabotage, coincidentally appearing at every cafe, cinema, bookstore, anywhere Will tried to take me. Always the same script. I was moving too fast. Will deserved better. Rebounds never last. Then the family group chats exploded. Aunts asking if I'd tricked Olivia into the swap. Cousins wondering why I was being so cruel while Olivia suffered. Mum rang 3 times in 1 week to tell me Olivia wasn't eating and couldn't stop crying. Did I have no heart? She's telling everyone I orchestrated the whole thing. I told Will one night, scrolling through yet another concerned text from a relative I hadn't spoken to in years, that I knew about the money and manipulated her into trading you away. It's deranged. Will took my phone, set it face down. You're not deranged. You're the only one in your family who sees her clearly. That doesn't make you difficult, Ella. It makes you honest. That night she called me. No tears this time, just ice. You're really doing this, she said. Choosing some guy over your own sister. I'm not choosing anyone over you, I said. You did this, Olivia. You wrote the contract. You started the timer. He was mine for a whole year, and you just swooped in the second you saw money. You threw him away, I said for the 100th time. You begged me to sign that contract. I like him. I'm sorry that hurts you, but it's not my fault. Long silence. Then, very softly, you're going to regret this, Ella. Blood's thicker than a month-long fling. I'm not the one who threw family away because someone wasn't shiny enough. She hung up. After that, silence. No ambush dates. Number 2 a.m. hysterical voicemails. No new texts. My phone stayed quiet for a whole week, and the quiet scared me more than the chaos ever had. Olivia doesn't quit. She reloads. Maybe she's finally accepted it. Will said one night while we stirred sauce side by side. You don't know Olivia, I muttered, shaking the pan harder than necessary. She doesn't accept defeat. She regroups. But another week passed. Nothing. I started to hope, stupidly, that she'd actually reached her limit. Then, out of nowhere, a single text. Can we talk? Coffee tomorrow? Just us. I stared at those 6 words for 10 minutes before typing back. Fine. 2 p.m. I told Will that night. He offered to come. I told him I had to do this alone. She was already sitting in the corner when I walked in, hands wrapped around a cup of tea. No dramatic mascara streaks. No tissues. She looked normal, which immediately set off every alarm bell I had. Thanks for coming, she said quietly. Olivia, what do you want? She took a slow sip, set the cup down perfectly centered on the saucer. I'm sorry. For showing up on your dates, for dragging the family into it, for blowing up Will's phone. All of it. I was wrong. I waited for the twist. It didn't come. I've had time to think, she continued. I get it now. Will's with you. The contract ends soon. Whatever happens after that is up to the 2 of you. She lifted one shoulder in a small shrug. I'm done fighting. Just like that. Just like that. A faint, sad smile. You two look happy. Enjoy it while it lasts, Ella. Something about the way she said enjoy it while it lasts twisted my stomach. Okay, I said slowly. Thank you for the apology. Of course. She stood, slung her bag over her shoulder. Say hi to Will for me. She walked out. I sat there for 20 minutes trying to figure out why her calm felt more dangerous than her screaming ever had. When Olivia goes quiet, she's not surrendering. She's aiming. I didn't know what she was aiming at yet. Then my phone rang at 2:17 a.m. I answered instantly because nothing good ever happens after 2 a.m. Ella. Olivia's voice was shredded with raw, ugly sobs. No performance left. Ella, I slept with him. My blood turned to ice. You slept with who? Luke. She could barely get the words out. I'm so sorry. I was angry and hurt, and he kept texting that he missed someone who actually appreciated him, and it just happened. A few nights ago, I sat up in bed, heart hammering. Will stirred beside me, but I was already somewhere else. That's not even the worst part, she whispered, voice cracking. After, he told me he has something. An STD. He found out weeks ago, but was too embarrassed to tell anyone. The room tilted. Weeks ago. Before the swap. Before the contract. Before any of this. Luke had known the entire time he was pushing to trade partners, signing his name like it was nothing, climbing into bed with my sister. He'd known he was carrying something incurable. And now Olivia had it too. I stared at the dark ceiling while my sister cried on the other end of the line, and for the first time in my life, I felt something close to pity for her. She had chased excitement, discarded gold for glitter, and in the end got exactly what she'd traded for. I hung up, rolled over, and curled into Will, the man she'd called boring, the man she'd thrown away without a second thought. He tightened his arms around me in his sleep. Outside, the city was quiet. Karma, it turns out, doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just waits patiently, wearing comfortable sweatpants and cooking pasta on the floor until the perfect moment arrives.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.